What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the BizDad Podcast. Today, I am stoked to talk to a good friend of mine, Ben Kelley. We've known each other for a couple years now. I've been talking about getting you on the podcast. Finally have you on the podcast. Looking forward to chatting with you about something a little bit different. You know, you and I have worked in a business aspect, and now we get to chat a little bit more on a personal level, but still some business in there as well. So if you can, Ben, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about your family and tell us about your business.
Hello. Good to see you, Adam. My name is Ben Kelley, as you mentioned. Let's see. My family? Yes. I'm married 13 years to Vanessa. Married in 2011. We have a 10-year-old boy. And it's been a wonderful, hard journey. So that's a little bit about family. What did you say? Business?
Yep.
Run a bunch of different businesses in my life. Came to California. I'll just give you the snapshot, right?
Yeah.
Grew up in Ohio, graduated the University of Cincinnati with a degree in product design. Moved to Los Angeles, California as a professional stunt rollerblader.
What? A piece I have never known about Ben Kelley. Holy gracious.
I rode on Team Extreme, competed. Those two qualifications, my degree in product design and my being a professional stunt rollerblader, got me a job at a $4 million startup designing kids' skate shoes with grind plates in the arches, where I actually held the patents for the product.
Wow. We
started at $4 million. They sold at $40 million in about 4 years. It was a wild ride.
Yeah.
Spent the next decade in outside sales, selling things for large corporations. What I learned there was how important it was to be on a team with diverse strengths, and probably got a little bit too much taste of corporate politics because I always thought I could run a better company on my own. So I started an outsourcing business with my wife, and then I started a real estate investment company with my brother and another partner. Someone handed us traction, and we started running that business on EOS. We were 100% virtual. Our accountability, our communication drastically increased. We flipped $52 million of multifamily real estate in 2.5 years. And thought, oh my gosh, EOS works so well in that business. I've got to do it in the business with my wife. Well, my wife doesn't love it when I tell her how to do everything. And so
every wife loves that. I'm surprised yours doesn't. That's crazy. Interesting.
What human doesn't? So yeah, for the sake of our marriage, we hired an outside implementer who came in and helped us run EOS. Third-party facilitation was a game changer for us. We got my wife out of our 24/7 project manager seat. We eliminated our debts to the business because we had some of those. We grew from 11 to 28 people. But really, truly, our business got more healthy, but our marriage got more healthy. I got more healthy. Eventually, we decided the right seat for me was not in the family business. It was being an EOS implementer. And so I feel like every book I've ever read, every business I've ever run, every coach I've ever had, which has been a lot, has led me to this moment now because I really love what I do in my day job.
Welcome to the BizDad Podcast, where we dive into the melding of fathership and entrepreneurship with your host, the original BizDad himself, Adam Labar. Adam is a Christian, a former Air Force officer, a dad to 3 amazing kids, a coach, a real estate investor, and a business owner. On this podcast, he'll explore the unique journeys of amazing dads who are striving for greatness in both business and family. So whether you're a dad who is an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply a man striving to be a better dad, get ready as the BizDad brings you conversations to inspire, challenge, and equip you to be a better dad and entrepreneur. And now, here's Adam.
Man, oh man, there are about 7,000 things I'm looking forward to digging into in there. Just off the top of my head, just one quick question. What was the name of the shoe brand?
Soap shoes.
You held the patent for soap shoes?
Yeah. Do you remember those?
Oh, for sure. I remember those. My buddy loved soap shoes. He thought they were like the most amazing thing in the world. That is hilarious. I'm going to have to tell my buddy, yeah, I mean, obviously this was 25 years ago that he was wearing soap shoes, right? So a long time ago, but I'm going to reach out to him after this and let him know. That's really funny. Well done on that. So that's cool. That's a piece of you I did not ever know about. So we'll dig into more of that in a little bit. But before that, I mean, you already mentioned growing up in Ohio. So I want to dig into a little bit of what it was like for you growing up. Oftentimes, and I preface this almost on every call, like we kind of model in one way, shape, or form our fathering and lifestyle as a dad and a husband based off of what we saw, whether it's because we're running away from it or whether we're running towards it, whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's a little of both. So I want to kind of know what it was like for you growing up. What was your experience growing up with your dad and your mom? We can hear both sides of it for sure, but obviously it's a dad podcast, so that's a little bit more emphasis there. Tell me a little bit about growing up for you in Ohio.
My mom was a saint. My dad was the one that drove everything. Including, so we were part of this religion, non-denominational church. It just had a lot of rules. And my dad was an engineer and just very strict and authoritarian. And I probably wasn't really, I was the youngest of 4 kids, and I wasn't really seen by my dad. And so when I did something, I was playing Pee Wee football, and I had to sell raffle tickets to pay for my fee because we were like, everything that in my family was, do we have the money to do it? Mm-hmm. We weren't terribly poor, but money kind of dictated almost every decision. So I said, hey, I want to play Pee Wee football. My friend's doing it. I didn't know anything about football. I just wanted friends, right? Yeah. So I signed up for Pee Wee football, and I started selling raffle tickets to pay my fee. And then I learned that I can sell 150, pay my fee. I sell 1,000, I get a BMX bike. Mm. So I start to achieve in this area. I get a BMX bike, and my dad notices. And I just got some affection that I so desperately craved. Mm. And looking back, this is one of those moments where I was like, oh man, I hooked up a couple things here that probably wasn't the best for me. First of all, I thought I could solve every problem with money. Mm-hmm. And then hard work, like achieving, got me attention from my dad. And this was a love-hate thing. Like, I so desperately wanted this attention, but my dad, he was always telling me no. And so with the rules of the church and the lack of support from my dad, I don't know, at age probably 13 or 14, I would say I fired my dad. Mm. And I just said in my mind, you don't support me, and everything that I'm going to achieve in my life, I am going to keep it from you. I don't know when the last time I've talked about this is, but in 9th grade was the first time I received 4.0. Mm-hmm. I never showed my grade card to my dad, and he was so mad. He called the school and got the report card. And when he saw it was all A's, he was so confused. Yeah. But I was just like, no. Yeah. So what's interesting is that I took that angst all the way through my life. And it wasn't probably until, I don't know, I really started to work on this and sift through this probably 7-8 years ago. But if you ask me 3 years ago, 4 years ago, how I feel about my dad, I'd be like, oh man, it was a terrible relationship. Really, really hated my dad. Mm-hmm. And if you ask me about how I feel about my dad now, my dad was a great dad. He did everything he could to help me in the way that he could, right? He helped me with my physics homework. He stayed up late for me to edit papers in English. He helped me fill out my college applications. I would have never have gone to college if he had not helped me with the application process, right? There were so many things that he did that really helped me. And looking back, I just kind of rewrote that. I just sifted back through it, and I just started to focus on all the good things that he had done for me. Mm-hmm. And with his scars, right? He's got his own issues, with his own dad, and and I've really worked to to improve that relationship. It's still not a two-way relationship. It's still not something where I'm like, hey, we have he supports me and he sees me for who, he's still who he is, but I just love him for who he is. And I'm so thankful for all the great things that he did for me, because he did a lot of great things for me. So that's I feel great about my dad.
Good. And that's part of the reason I asked this question is sometimes we'll have somebody on here that has never done the work that you've already done, right? To kind of look through that and understand what's going on. And I want to encourage anybody listening who hasn't done that to do it, right? Nobody has a perfect relationship with their dad. Nobody does. It's not like my kids don't have a perfect relationship with me. I still screw it up all the daggum time, right? I should say they screwed up. I'm perfect, but they screwed up. So
right.
It's the 10-year-old's fault, not mine. But the sooner that you're able to work on that, imagine if you were able to hear this conversation between you and I right now, when you were 18, 20, 21, first graduating college, 22 years old, getting ready to come out and start a business. Wow. The years that you could have saved in a relationship and heartache and pain. I like to ask these questions and dig into this part. So I'm going to continue to dig in here a little bit. You're a young teen. You start to, I'm going to ask a pre-question first. You said that you associated earning money can fix any of the problems, and it gives you the recognition you need from your dad. Because the success got you the recognition. When did you start to unpair those things, right? Not necessarily with your dad, but inside your brain anyways, right? As you were growing, when did you start to go, boy, money is not fixing these problems and the success is not what gets me fulfillment? Where did that shift start to happen? Was it around the same time or different?
I went through this, it was probably about the same time. So I get married. We have about 2.5 years of a great marriage. We start a business together, and we've been trying to get pregnant. My wife had been trying to get pregnant, and then all of a sudden she's pregnant. Now all of a sudden we have a business that we're starting, and we're about to have our first kid. And that timing, we wanted both of those things, but the timing was not helpful. And so building the business together and having the child was a huge role reversal. After I started the business, I left my sales job and came into the business full time. And we just went through a really dark time. From day one, my wife wanted to just make enough money to live our lifestyle. And I was the visionary. I wanted to grow. So EOS helped us grow, helped us find healthy. But we were coming out of a really dark time. So I'm in my marriage and I'm like, I hate myself. I hate my wife. I have a terrible relationship with my son, young son growing up. And I am struggling. And I go to this church where they're like, hey, there's this retreat. It's 26 hours. And I'm like, a night out of the house? I'll take it. So I go to this retreat and I hear men share. And for the first time in my life, they're talking about, this church happens to be in a very affluent area. Right? So you got guys that are sitting up there. They live in a $7 to $10 million house, right? All 4 of their kids show up to church dressed in white. It's just like the wealth is like the degrees, the education, the wealth. And I'm listening to some of these guys share, and they're talking about problems with their relationship, struggling with the relationship with their wife, struggling raising kids. And I cannot figure it out. I am so confused. And I'm like, how could you possibly have these problems? You have money.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment that I was like, holy crap. Money is not, and happiness are totally separate.
Yeah.
And that drove me to this conclusion that I had to figure out how to be happy with who I was. Whether I did have the money I wanted or didn't have the money I wanted, I had to figure out who I was and to be happy with myself. And that's when that journey really started.
Wow.
And that was like 2018 for me. I came out of that retreat. I was drinking a lot, and I could not stop. And 2 days later, I stopped drinking. And I had, like I said, I hated myself. That's not an understatement. I had so much negativity and criticalness directed towards myself that it really was a dark time. But not drinking allowed me to be less angry with myself. Mm-hmm. And one habit that I changed, the drinking, allowed me to change another habit, which was just kind of not being an a-hole to myself and the people around me, right? You can't give it if you don't have it. You can't give love if you don't have love. Mm-hmm. So that's when I really started to work on myself, on being negative, on being critical, I was really defensive. I was really insecure, but that's where that work started to really happen.
So it seems to time-wise correlate then also with when you started working on your thought process around your dad. So did all of this kind of pair into each other, just like all of the work on yourself started happening at the same time?
And it was really this time of like, if I'm going to be happy with who I am, who am I? What am I struggling with? And my father issues were big. My relationship issues were big. And it was really driven around like, hey, I'm not the husband that I want to be. Mm-hmm. I'm not the dad I want to be. I don't have these relationships in my life. So what can I do? How can I figure this out? And I tried all kinds of things, right? I'm a person who believes in growing and learning. So I took parenting classes. I read books. I got therapists. Yeah. I was going to different church groups. I was involved in all kinds of different stuff that I'd never tried before. So that was, just an iterative process of like, hey, this worked for me. This didn't work for me. So I read a book in there called Parent Effectiveness Training, PET, by Dr. Thomas Gordon. I read it and it sounded so good to me. It was about listening and connection. I don't know if you've ever had this. If you've ever read a book and you're like, oh, this sounds great, but I can't make it work in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I found there's this class and I found a PET teacher and I started taking this parenting class. So between the parenting class and listening, this skill of active listening, this was really the hard mechanics of it. And then the EOS was like, open and honest. Here's how we solve issues. We don't attack each other. Mm-hmm. We're not the enemy.
Yeah.
So like a couple of these things started to come together and help me have the tools to understand what a healthy relationship was and how to kind of start to create some of the boundaries in my life and to learn about who I am. Like I felt like I was just trying to get to know myself all over again. I don't know. Have you ever gone through that phase, Adam?
Yes. Yeah. And I'd say it was somewhere in my mid 30s. I was kind of going through maybe my early 30s, trying to go through the work with understanding who my dad was, right? Which then helped me kind of understand who I am, and get rid of some of the, terrible framing that I had around relationships and childhood and all sorts of stuff, because I created this frame based off of what I thought was true, not what was actually true, which is one of the reasons I hate this whole, this is your truth. As another is the truth. There's no such thing as your truth and my truth. There's the truth. Like, it's plain and simple. There's your beliefs about the truth and there's my beliefs about the truth, but it doesn't mean that changes what the truth actually is. And it took me a while to really go, okay, what is it that's actually going on in life? What is it that I'm actually seeing? And what is it that I'm just using the frame of my mental framework to view that in, right? And how do I step away from that? And that was, it took some work. I mean, it was, and I'd say I'm still today going through some of it. And hopefully it's a lifelong process, but.
Your relationship with your dad, was it positive or negative?
I'd say when I was younger, I would say it was pretty neutral. I looked at it as negative in some cases because as I was growing up, because I was like, I wanted more. But then I look at my dad and he didn't have those tools in his toolbox because he wasn't given any sort of anything when he was younger to model it off of. He had a horrendous stepfather, with the details of which I don't really go into on this podcast because it's horrendous. And so he turned out unbelievably well for what he went through. And it was like, how in the world could I have expected him to have ever provided some of that. He never, like, there was no framework for him. And similarly, how I talk to folks, you mentioned church, it's like when I hear people who had such horrible relationships with their dad, whether it's, abuse, whether it's, they left, whether it's whatever. And then it's like, okay, and now we're supposed to tell somebody who's joining the church that, God is like their father. Yeah, horse crap. It's like their father, right? Like God is nothing like their father, hopefully, right? I mean, if that's what their model of their dad is, then yeah, they're not going to look to God as any positive figure whatsoever. So, so it's just, again, changing that frame of reference that somebody's walking through their life with, their model of their life. So, it's difficult to do.
And that's exactly like sifting through that, changing your frame of reference and considering what it's like from other viewpoints, right? What was it like for your dad? What tools did he have? What did he go through? Because I was just like you. I held my father, convicted, so to speak. And then when I really sat down and thought about it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Look, here's what they went through.
Yeah.
I'm like, he did some great things for me.
Yeah.
So I love that.
I think doing that work has also helped me, and I hate that doing the work statement, but doing that, going through that model in my head has also helped me in just normal day-to-day reactions to things, right? Because there was this really angry guy one day. We were walking down the street. I don't remember where we were. I was at some conference or something. I was with a group of guys, and he just like smashed into one of the people we were walking with. And this was right around the time I started trying to think through life a little bit differently and how I'm viewing how people interact and like understanding my dad and who I have an amazing relationship with now. But this guy just ran into him with the guy we were walking with, and a couple of us, and me included, I was like, well, that was really rude. I can't believe he did that. That was ridiculous. And the guy who got ran into was like, I don't know what is going on in his brain. He could have just found out he has brain cancer. He could have just found out that his wife wants to leave him. I don't have a clue. And I was like, holy crap. Like, it was just like such a smack in my face to go, why don't I view things from that lens? I'm only viewing it from my own personal perspective as I'm walking down the street. I'm not taking anybody else's understanding of life into account. So I'm going to pass it to you. Like, how has that shifted your relationships since you started thinking through that, right? How has that shifted that relationship now with your dad, with your mom, with other people you're interacting with, your wife and your kids, or your child? How has it kind of shifted your thought process as you're interacting with them on a day-to-day basis?
For my dad, I've looked at that relationship and said, what do I want out of this? How much time do I want to spend? When he's gone, what am I going to not regret? And so I've made very intentional choices. I am going back. I am spending time. I am doing this, right? So that relationship has improved. He lives in Ohio. My mom has Alzheimer's at 83. He's 84. He's still doing well. But I've definitely decided family dynamics, kind of a messy situation with my sisters who has legal care, executive power, and who talks to who. My sisters communicate very little with me. That's okay. I totally support them if that's what's helpful for them. But okay, let me stay on track here. Intentional time with my father. And then throughout my life, just looking at each relationship, I would say the most significant. So I joined GoBundance a year ago, right? A bunch of other guys kept running to it. And like, this has never lined up for me, but there was guys in that group talking about how to be a better father, a better husband. And so when I joined GoBundance, when I did my one sheet the first time, my theme was give more than I get. And I really have worked on not keeping score. My wife and I, we were always keeping score. How much did you do? How much did you do? How much did you make? Where do you get to do this? And anytime I'm like, if I catch myself keeping score in any relationship, I know it ain't good. So really just, hey, I'm going to do this for me. I'm going to give this because it's beneficial for me. And if it comes back or doesn't come back, that's okay. And I think one of the things that I thought about as far as being a parent is I want to show my son what a healthy marriage looks like, what a healthy relationship looks like. And so I have focused a lot of energy in our very dark time, classes, ideas, we went to a marriage retreat called Retro Valle. And we were almost calling it quits. My wife was like, it's not too bad. It's pretty horrible, but I'm fine. And I was like, no, I'm not living like this. I am not.
Yeah.
This is not worth it. Went to that. That was a serious improvement. And we came out of that retreat. We had some very deep conversations. And with the tools that they gave us, we decided that we were going to stay together. Because we were so close to calling it quits. And I'm so thankful that we didn't. But that was a moment we said we're going to stay together. That was about 2 years ago. And maybe more. We just went to a marriage retreat last weekend, and it was the first time I was like, oh, this was not as deep, which is great. But it was like, I continue to invest in that relationship to make it better and better. And so I feel like taking care of her, that's the first, like, healthy relationship. When we're good, when we're communicating well, our son he's doing better in school. He's getting along with his friends better. He's not carrying the stress of us. So I would say that it's trickled through every single relationship in every way in my life.
That's phenomenal to hear. That's that is something to overcome that most people don't. So well done on putting in the effort to actually make that happen, and making the choices to push yourself to that level of commitment, which marriage is a commitment, and it's a difficult one, and it's like a pain in the butt. And when you look at statistics and you look at the way some people treat marriage, they don't treat it like a commitment. They treat it like it's a fling that they can walk away from at any point. And I think that's part of what some of the issues are. And I love that you said, you know what, I'm gonna push this through, and I'm gonna make it happen. So I commend you for that. Thank you.
You know, what's interesting is when we got married in a church in the Philippines, but we got married at the Justice of Peace or whatever at Beverly Hills. We filed the court document. Mm-hmm. And when anyone ever asked us what our anniversary was, I told them the Beverly Hills date, 12/8, and my wife told them the church date. And when we got married, I wasn't Catholic, swore I would never be Catholic. Mm-hmm. But through the development and benefit through the men's church group, eventually I went through a class to learn the vocabulary, ended up converting. And I did see it as a contract.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just a piece of paper. But, Catholic is super interesting because it's this super strong structure, framework. And you get to pick and choose which part of it that you like and use and don't use, right? But one of the things in the Catholic Church is that, and I think this is all Christianity, is like, hey, the wedding is the husband, the wife, and God. Mm-hmm. And in EOS, we call that the greater good. Mm-hmm. Not what you want, but what's the greater good? And that was where we started to that really helped us. That really helped us. And for me, I started to think about it not just as a contract. I started to think about it in a way that a filter that I could use to really look at my heart and be like, okay, man, I'm struggling with this one little thing. Like, what's going on here? What trigger's going on? Why am I, hey, help me with this. Right? And that kind of work really moved me forward. What's it like for you, Adam?
Which part?
Marriage.
Rainbows and butterflies. Everything's perfect.
Amen, brother. Marriage in relationship to your kids, to your sons, right? Or what do you have?
We got 2 boys and a girl.
2 boys and a girl.
Yeah. So, as you said, my goal is to represent what a solid husband and wife couple look like. That means healthy communication. That means, no, you're not pushing any buttons, young man. He wants to come over and push buttons and make me sound like a robot or something. My oldest is in the room now. So that means that doesn't mean that everything needs to look like perfection to them. But what it does mean is that when things aren't going well, they can see a healthy dynamic between a healthy man and a healthy woman, be able to communicate well with each other, despite their disagreements. Sometimes that means that we take our disagreement to the bedroom, we discuss it, and we come out with a unified front, that they don't know who won what or who lost what or what. It's not winning and losing. It's us fighting a battle together as a couple. And this battle is called life, and we're going to make it through together. It's not a battle with each other. It is a battle with life and the forces around it. We're on the same team. So, and they know that they are number 3 on my priority list. It goes God, my wife, and them. So as long as I think I keep those 3 intact, they're going to turn out a whole lot better. I'm going to be in a lot better position. And that's kind of hopefully that's how they see it. And then individually for my kids, my goal is to raise my boys to be better men than me and my daughter to find a better man than me, which I wish her the best of luck, because if I could be the best man I could possibly be, then bring it on, buddy.
Am I going to make a joke that's a high bar or a low bar? Or a low bar?
The low bar. That's right. The low bar is high, I tell you what. It's, and that's the goal, right? How can I expect her to go and find an amazing man who treats her well, who respects her, if all she's ever seen is a man who disrespects his wife, who doesn't take care of his kids, who isn't present, who's so focused on building $100 million empire that she never actually has a relationship with me? She's never going to find a solid man. She's going to go through life thinking that money's just what we trace, or that a man is just an absentee person to bring money into the house, and that's all that matters. And it's like, no. We need a whole lot. You need to understand what this actually means inside of this house. And the man should be the leader of the house, and I should be modeling what that looks like. So, and that's what I encourage all the time. Like as I'm coaching men on how to do this, as I'm working through it with my kids, if I'm not showing up well, I want them to call me out, and I want to be able to say, okay, you're right, I did not do that well. Or hopefully I call it out before they do, but I welcome it if they see it. So I'm going to rewind a little bit and go back to the business side of the house, change gears for a minute. Now, you go back to graduating from the University of Cincinnati, flying out to California, doing this rollerblading stuff. How did you kind of jump into this business? you own the patent on the shoes, right? So how did you get to that point where you were patenting shoes and doing all of this business stuff?
I'm going to school in Cincinnati, and my roommate comes home from class one day and he says, hey, my mom says that there's a movie being shot in Cincinnati about rollerblading, and I'm going to audition. You want to come? I was super competitive with my roommate. I'm like, I ain't missing that. We go audition for this movie. We don't understand anything. First of all, we made second callbacks. In my mind, I was like, what? You need to see us twice to make a decision? What is wrong with you guys? Right? Didn't understand anything about movies. We end up as local talent on this movie called Airborne. We meet all of Team Rollerblade through this. And after that movie comes out, I get a local shop sponsor from a local skate shop. And they're like, hey, come and do tricks in this popcorn fest. So I start going to these shows, and I'm at this show, and the guy that's emceeing it is not doing a great job. There are 1,000 people, kids, just lined up in front of all these ramps. And I'm just like, hey, man, can I try? He's like, sure, go for it. And so I jump on the mic and I start building excitement and telling a story of the athletes, where they're from, the tricks that they're doing. So anyways, one thing leads to a next. Shop sponsor, get hooked up with another company who does shows. There's opportunities to fly and judge and do ski shows or corporate entertainment, and just ride that for as far as I can while I'm doing college. Started an amateur competition series called Am Jam. So I'm skating amateur, getting paid for it, running my own competition series in college. And then I go to California to do an internship, and I audition for Team Extreme, make it, and I'm talking to the owner And he's like, what do you do? He's like, you don't look like the other skaters. I'm like, well, I'm in college. He's like, you're in college?
Definitely not like the other skaters.
There was a couple, but not many. And he's like, yeah, well, that's interesting. What are you studying? I said, industrial design, product design. He's like, really? He's like, I just had this idea come across my desk. And I signed non-disclosures, and we started working on soap shoes. And made the first pair, started testing them, started keeping track of them, went back to school. He partnered with someone else, wheel company. They put in $2 million, loaned him $2 million. They started a $4 million startup. Graduated college, came back. In that time, I had turned pro as a rollerblader, a skater, and then started working inside the company. My name was on the patents. I didn't own them. And I didn't have any equity in the company. In fact, that is the first time I learned about equity. So when they sold at $40 million, and I'll be totally transparent, there were wonderful things that happened for me at that company. I learned and grew so much. But at that time of my life, I pushed the boundaries of my job description, and I thought they would never fire me. I was wrong. And when that happened in my life, in my life, I could not separate my identity from my job. Like what I did, who I was, were just bound up. So when they let me go, man, I was crushed. I thought I was a failure because I couldn't separate what I did and who I was at that time of my life. Right? So I was like, man, I'm a pile of trash. It wasn't like I failed. No, I was a failure. And that was just kind of where my mindset was, where my ego was, who was driving, right? I need to achieve. All of a sudden I can't achieve. This is public. Oh my gosh, this is really heartbreak. But that got me into like rollerblading, and the shoe company was just fantastic. There was just like my dad, I saw all the negatives at that point in time. I was crushed. And then looking back, I mean, I worked with some great people. I had some great experiences. I made significant contributions to the product line, worked with a great team. They flew me to China, Korea. I spoke at the international sales meeting in Barcelona, Spain. I was on the Donnie and Marie show showing I had just ridiculous opportunities. And now I'm much more thankful for all of those things. And by the way, they should have fired me.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that how that often works? We don't realize that we should have been fired until much farther on. Right. And you realized, I would imagine because of some experiences like that, you realized that you needed to fire yourself and some of your own stuff too, and become an implementer and do the things that you do now. So, all of our experiences line up to be, like you said, where we're supposed to be. And that's just kind of the way it goes. As you were kind of doing product development and kind of understanding all of that, like obviously this is all new to you. You're besides, learning it in school, but learning it in school and doing it in real life are two very, very different things. Which is what always baffles me about, people who are going and getting an MBA from people who've never ran a business before. But I'll put that aside for now. What was it like for you kind of putting this into a business and seeing the backside of the business and how a product is actually developed while you were simultaneously doing it in school? So
what's cool, I went to the University of Cincinnati in DAP. They have a 5-year program with 6 internships. So I had already worked at 6 different companies by the time I graduated. So Huffy Bicycles, BMW, GVO, Design Consulting in Palo Alto, California. Some really great experiences that I'd already had. And I had started AmJam, California Sun Productions, that ran this amateur competition. So I had I probably had a better grasp on the business and the sales side of it. Like we would go through crits in college, and I would wait till the last minute, and I would be up for, 56 hours finishing my project. It wasn't always finished. And the crits, like if you didn't finish your project, you would get ripped. And I went through this one product design crit where my project was not finished, and my classmates were like, he is going to pay. And I went through this crit where I just explained the story, right? Kind of went through this whole sales process, and they were like, I had a really good crit and my product was not finished. Mm-hmm. So I started to understand kind of like the sales process and where my strengths lay in that. And so when I was doing it with the owner, and they hired an outside design consultancy, there was a lot of great things I learned. And it was fantastic, right? To see how shoes were made, to have products named after me and that kind of stuff was like, that probably fed my ego a little bit too much, but, they did some really cool stuff, and it was super fun. And I'd say that I really learned how to create space enough to focus on working on the business. We had this issue. We started when we did 3 screws to hold the grind plate into the shoe. Each one was a special screw. So if you changed your grind plate, it took you like 30 minutes a plate. It was terribly long. And we had a product called a stash plate that was a false bottom. It was a bottom that had a little compartment into it that you could stash things. And the owners were like, this is not going well enough because it takes so long to do it. Ben, figure this out. And the design consultancy, who was a super talented, like really talented group, had been working on it. They couldn't figure it out. And this kept lingering and lingering. And I was the head of R&D, which I don't know how they gave me that title. But I would take these, like, I was like, okay, I went to the library and I just took this clarity break. And I went down there and I started to kind of like, I don't know, you just kind of started to sift through stuff, and you're like, I started looking at different material and then I started like ideas. I've been working on this for a long time. Right. And I'm just going through different books. I'm just thinking, and I'm like, okay. And I was there about 2 hours. I'd done like, probably 50 different ideas on my sketch pad. And then I'm just like, I can carve out a slot here and there, and they'll never have to unscrew the 2 front bolts. It will be slotted. And it was like something that really moved the business forward. Mm-hmm. I went back and I'm like, I grabbed a grind plate, went down to the shop, cut, dremeled, slid it in there. And I'm like, this works. Went up and showed the chief operations officer, Jerry Gross, super talented guy. And I was like, look, Jerry, don't tell the design company yet. We need time to like make sure this actually works. Okay. He was like, this is it. And the modifications to all the molds and everything was not that expensive. Mm-hmm. I think I walked out of there and he like picked up the phone and called the design company. He's like, change this now. Those were like, that was like, how you look back on your life and you're like, man, I was really in the zone. Mm-hmm. Like you solved something was on the line and you came and showed up, whether with the team or whatever. Cause I mean, right. I'd worked through this with the team. I know it came through me at the last minute, but it probably wasn't all mine. Right. Like those moments that you look back on, you go, oh my gosh, we did that.
Yeah.
Do you have something like that, Adam?
Boy, not off the top of my head. Not off the top of my head. No, I mean, I've been in the zone an awful lot, but I mean, I've had a very different life than you've had. So being in the zone for me, running through the mountains of Afghanistan are a little bit different than product design and stuff. Right. So, yeah. But, or running a criminal investigation on some child case, those are very difficult ones to work through. And those, when you're in the zone on those, it's, mentally you're in a place that's just like, we're going to town, we're getting it done. And those are, the feel good at the end of it for sure. But, a specific thing that pops to mind, not really, but I love that you brought in the clarity break, and that's something that you and I on the professional level had talked about, with our business and getting those clarity breaks and how important they are. And I am so dreadful at those. Like I don't do well just not doing anything. I would rather be doing things that are worthless than doing nothing, and just trying to let my brain do what it's supposed to do. So I want to dig in, pull in your EOS brain a little bit, because it's just to selfishly steal something here. When you are taking your clarity breaks, right, it's not necessarily like what's the word I'm looking for? Meditation. That's not what the point of the clarity break is, but the point of the clarity break is to get away from what the actual work is, to let your brain filter through. So talk to me a little bit about how you have implemented those clarity breaks. You just explained one of them, but how do you actually truly implement those inside of a business, inside of your life, to help foster those thoughts in the way they need to be to help you kind of get that clarity?
So full confession here. Probably one of the things that really drives me to actually get this done. So I'm using the EOS Life Planner, and every week it's got a page in here. Now this is the old one. The new one has 2.5 pages that says, have you taken your clarity break this week? So that is a driving factor for me, because I get to the end of the week and I see those empty pages and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do this. Mm-hmm. I asked Gino Wickman, because Gino tells his story, right? Gino Wickman created EOS, Traction, wrote the books. And he talks about how frustrated he was in certain parts of his life, and how things like he came from this background where he was doing this work, right? And I don't have I'm good with any type of terms, but he calls them like bricks, and like working stuff out with his dad. And he had this wonderful wife who always loved and supported him. He has, I think, 4 kids. So I'm like, Gino, you had all this emotional trauma that you're working out, but you have this amazing marriage, and you built this crazy successful business, right? I'm like, how did you do this? And he says, clarity breaks. Mm. He sat down once a week. His clarity break was 2 hours. He would do it in a coffee shop. And he says, every week I would sit down for 2 hours, and I was so clear what the business needed. And it was at that moment that I was like, I've kind of wrote clarity breaks off. I got to be honest. And then that was when I started to dig in. I just said, if Gino did this for the business, even from not that, like, I always think that there's people that grew up like they just had a healthy family. Mm-hmm. There's some of them. But if that can be that kind of a tool that can bring that kind of power to your life, to your business, to your family, it's kind of like fasting. Man, it's there. All you got to do is not eat. But it's really hard to do. And all of the cell benefits of your cells healing, mm-hmm. when they're not going through digestion, all these things that happen in your body are really fantastic, but you don't get that benefit unless you do this thing that's free. Yeah. Sleeping, fasting, clarity break. There's my list.
Yeah. Boy, and I'm terrible at sleeping. I love food, and I'm not a big clarity break guy. So, man, oh man, I think I'm seeing some problems that I need to fix here.
Make the clarity fun for you, like the clarity break. Like go to your favorite coffee shop, take this time, and don't make it adversarial to yourself. Make it in line with yourself. And think about that place and just be like, you know what? I'm going to go sit down, and I will take – now there's questions – in the leadership team manual, there's questions in the toolbox for EOS, but in the EOS journal, that same tool is on page 26. It gives you the clarity break instructions, and it gives you questions at the end, mm-hmm. that you can kind of think through. Now, you can meditate, mull through anything, but clarity break questions. Is the vision and plan for the business department on track? What is the number one goal? Am I focusing on the most important things? Do I have the right people in the right seats to grow? What is one people move that I must make this quarter? How strong is my bench? That's a third of the questions. Of questions just to think about, mm-hmm. the business or the family, right? For the family, is like, is my vision clear for the family? Am I focusing on the most important things? So I'm probably getting 60% of what I could get out of my clarity breaks, to be honest.
Okay.
So I'm not perfect either.
Yeah. Well, you're doing them, and that's a start, right? So, and it's more than a start because you're getting 60% out of it. So what is it that's going to bring you that other 40%? What is it that's slowing you down from getting the rest of that?
Probably dedicating the time. And if you're running a business, the same page meeting between your visionary and integrator is a wonderful place to really kind of work out some of those issues and talk through some of these things and make sure that you're on the same page. So if you have my integrator is my practice manager, Jean Metzger. So she runs, I call her my boss, right? Come on, Gene, boss me around here. She's like, why are you doing that, Ben? So if you have that relationship inside your business, that's great. In my family, I will say I'll bounce. Like I do care about the way that my wife sees things, because she sees things that I don't. She's wired differently. So I will use, I'm doing an L10 with my wife every week. I'm doing a family meeting, right? And so in that time, I will bounce things off of her if I have questions. I'm like, hey, we're not so strong in this area. What do you think about this? So those relationships, working through those in my life has been, I could probably go deeper with those things. But I'm doing quarterlies with my practice manager. I'm not doing quarterlies with my wife or our family, not on a regular basis. I think that structure helps a lot in my family and in my business.
What you're talking about is something that I try to encourage folks to do constantly, right? Like having family core values, having a family vision, knowing where you're going in the right direction. Like we do it in our businesses, we do it in EOS. Why don't we do it in our family to help us make sure that we're all on the same page? Now, right person, right seat. Those aren't exactly something that we can do inside of our family, right? Like we're a family. Here we are, right? We're in the seats we're in, and we're the people we are. There is nothing there, but we can make sure that we're rowing in the same direction, that we all have the same vision, that we all have core values that we can agree upon, that we can, like I've got mine hanging up over my dinner table. The Labar family core values, they're on my dinner, like they're there. We go over them and we talk about them, and I need to dial them down a little bit. They're a little bit too intense for a 10, 6, and 2-year-old. I need to kind of settle them in a little bit, but it was our first iteration and it was great.
Is that a family VTO?
It's kind of a family VTO. It is kind of a family VTO. It doesn't go into as much. It doesn't have like the full vision written out on it, but it is what we use to kind of discuss what we're doing as a family. Like, are we on the right track? Are we focusing on we're supposed to have collaborative leadership here, and we're not really showing that right now. Those types of things.
It has core values. Tell me about what it has on it. Does it have a 3-year picture?
No. So like I said, it's not like a full VTO. It's what we use it to talk about what our like mental VTO is, but we haven't written out like a full VTO on it. It is strictly the core values and a description of them for us to vector our conversations on. Like when it came time to discuss my wife retires this year, and we're going to be getting a Class A RV, traveling the country, doing all this stuff. I think I told you that on the phone recently, but
yeah, congratulations.
That's really amazing. Looking forward to it. But it was one of those things that, okay, like, does that match our core values, what we want for our family? Oh, well, it absolutely does. Like this is the direction we want our family to be going in, which is spending more time with each other, building the relationships with each other, leading together, showing like, altruism as we're moving forward and stuff. So it is, we use it like it's a VTO, even though we don't have the rest of it all written out. And it's funny, this year I told my wife, here it is in March, and we have yet to have our annual meeting to discuss a lot of that stuff. It's been a massively busy year. Like, she's getting ready to retire. We've got all this stuff going on. I'm in the middle of trying to buy a business. So there's just been a lot going on. And it's like, man, we don't have that vision right now. The only vision we have is you retire and then we go on a trip. Like, that's all, like, and maybe that's good enough. I don't know, like for what we're doing, but it's, I strongly encourage folks to do this with the family. So,
it's interesting. Have you read The Masculine in Relationship, G.S. Youngblood?
No. What was it again? The Masculine Relationship?
The Masculine in Relationship by G.S. Youngblood. Anzi in GoBundance in my LA chapter was like, oh my gosh, this is a great book. And I thought, I'm like, all right, I ain't going to like this. And I started reading it, and it's really influenced me in a positive way, because it talks about what masculinity is in a relationship. And it gives a couple things. It says, hey, we're leaders. To be a man in the family, we're leaders, which means we must initiate and we must clarify. Or, if we bring structure, that helps our wife organize things. She can be feminine. We invite her. She comes into that role if she so chooses. But we can provide structure. It's one of the things that we can do as a man, right? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what are the tools I have to bring structure to a family? Well, as an EOS implementer, I've got a couple.
Yeah.
So
got a whole toolbox full.
That's what I got, a whole toolbox full. And so that's when it's so funny because I pulled this up. This is the Hendricks family VTO, right? And this isn't the same as a business VTO. I've got my core values. This one has passions instead of core focus. It has a 15-year target, and it has a lifetime wish list, a lot like a bucket list from a one sheet. And then it's got a 3-year picture, what you want your family to look like in 3 years. And then it brings it down to the ground. And that next year, this is what we want to do as a family, 90-day rocks, and then issues. Like this is it's just a super powerful tool for structure in the family that, I mean, it's got to serve the family, right? But it's got the core values. But if you listen to, it sounds a lot, this is like 3-year picture, future date. He's got $500,000 in income, owns a business, net worth of $4 million. His measurables, or what does it look like? Lindsay, his wife, accepted to college. Oh, no, it's his daughter, accepted to college of choice. Braden starts high school, international exchange student with us. Mom joins high school parent board. Dad not working on the weekends. 3rd summer mountain vacation together. Patagonia hiking trip. College savings goals met. No car payments. Kitchen is remodeled. We host a block party. I'm like, wow, what a fantastic 3-year picture. It's got everyone included. The kids, the parents, right? Anyways, this is one of those things I'm trying to do a better job of in my family, of trying to bring a little bit of structure that supports my family in their directions.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Can't say I'm doing a great job at it, but I love how you have your values up on the wall, Adam. Like, man, that's a filter. Good for you.
And it's a start, right? And it's one of those that just having something to get you moving, like starting in the same direction, and like have those conversations with your spouse. Make sure that and that's where you like the kids will go along with just about anything. Sometimes because they don't have a choice, but sometimes just because like, oh, mom and dad are doing this. That makes sense. Let's do it. So get mom and dad on the same page. Like, where are you guys at? Have a same page meeting yourself. Have your weekly date nights. Have your time alone to be able to discuss these things on where you want to be as a family and what you want to be doing and how you want to be growing. And and I've probably beat this statement to death over the last few episodes, especially. But what good is $100 million business if you've lost your family in the process? Like, it does not matter. And you've already touched on at least that idea throughout all of this, that money, you figured out that money does not solve those problems. Those problems are there whether you have money or not. You have to solve them yourself, having the emotional intelligence to be able to work through these issues with your spouse and your kids. So why not put in the effort to do that? Because your legacy, the Kelley legacy and the Labar legacy, are going to last in our last name much more than in our bank account. So how can we keep that last name being a thriving last name so that it doesn't just disappear from the history books?
Absolutely. Everything that you just said is 100% right. We're all like trying to build these $100 million companies or whatever it is, only to get there and realize, wow, it sucks without a relationship with my kids and wife. Right? It's not about money. Is important, right? It helps us accomplish some of these things, but it is not the end goal. And so, what stands out for me, Adam, is that as we're talking about this, like, we're talking about clarity breaks. It's like, well, how do you improve these? You just do them, right? It's like, how do you improve the vision of your family? Well, you just take the time to spend together. And if you can get in a rhythm of time, I mean, that's what I love about EOS. They're like, what's so strong about EOS? You just keep coming back. Every week you come back in an L10. Every quarter you come back and you go, hey, we didn't do this. No kidding. Do we still want to do it? Yeah, we still want to do it. Okay, what part are we going to do it this quarter? Come back next quarter. Do we do this? Sometimes no.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we just keep coming back. And I would say that coming back in your life on a regular rhythm for a clarity break, for a annual meeting with your wife, hey, what's important to us in this next year? Like, man, being able to slow down enough to prioritize those things just to keep coming back. Do we want to do this? Hey, we said that trip was important. Are we doing it this year? That's the gold that comes out of it for me.
Now, I want to switch over to your EOS work, right? Like, because I would imagine with the experience that you have in business, with what you have going on, like you probably, and you can tell me whether or not this is difficult or not, because you're the one who has to do it. But I would be so tempted to use all of my previous experience and knowledge to just try to solve problems for folks on teams. And that's not necessarily what you're there to do. They're supposed to be solving their own stuff. So how do you kind of balance what you've worked through a ton of different issues in creating businesses and developing all these things and all this stuff, helping to guide folks in solving their own issues in their company without you wanting to solve them from your seat? How does that kind of work for you as an implementer?
What's great about my journey is that all the messiness that I've been through with my wife and all the work I've done as a parent and trying to figure all that stuff, I've really ended up in a lot of family businesses. And as an EOS implementer, I don't know if I'm just attracted or they come to me. I don't know. But I've ended up in situations where husbands and wives are like, hey, we're running a business together and we are really struggling. And I'm like, no.
Shocking.
Been there, done it.
Yeah.
And so I have had, and some implementers are like, oh my gosh, I'm in the room and they are fighting. They are yelling at each other. And I need a therapist. For me personally, I love it. I'm like, let's go. I've had husbands and wives. We sit down for a same page meeting. We come into the City Club in downtown Los Angeles on the 56th floor. We have this beautiful view. And I watch the husband, the visionary, and the wife was working in the business. She was kind of like chief of staff, kind of HR, hiring, doing all these different things in the business. And I watch him walk in and I see the watery eyes. I see the trembling hands. And I'm just like, oh, we got some high stakes here. And we go through a 4-hour session. In that case, I think it was about 3 hours, right? Building an issues list and just kind of working through. And I'm like, okay, one at a time, like what's here for you? How do you feel about this? What's the real issue? What are the options? And I facilitated an L10 today for 2 brothers that run a doctor's office, super talented physician. The other brother runs the back of the house. They love each other. But they're even on the same page, but they will get sidetracked with the smallest things. And what I really feel like my superpower is that I'm great at facilitating these, and we can get through. I'm like, if you guys give me the chance, like, do you realize, like, hey, if this doesn't work for you, one brother called me yesterday and he goes, I'm canceling. I'm not doing the next session. I'm like, you're not? He's like, nope. He said he wanted to run EOS. He's not running EOS. He won't IDS with me. He won't solve problems. He's not staying on the structure. And I'm not spending another dollar until he says or learns how to run EOS. And so we just have this conversation and I'm just like, look, what's at stake here? He's like, well, I'll just run this and I'll never talk to him. He runs the front of the house and we'll be fine. I'm like, if you do that, you should probably just go find another business or something else to do. So I'm like, hey, it's your brother. You love him. So you have a relationship here as a family. It's your business. It's how you make money. You have sunk a ton of money, a ton of time in here. So if you walk away from this, I think the stakes are high. But if you stay with us, if you stay with me as your EOS implementer and you follow the process and you let me do my thing and facilitate in the room, like, I can get you back to a place, I believe, where you walk out of the room seeing your partner, not as your adversary, but as your teammate and your brother, and you can go have dinner on the weekends. And like, I think I can change the quality of your life with your business partner and your brother if you stay with me. And that is somehow, it feels like that has become more and more of my superpower of being able to dig in the room through relationships, both familial, wives, husbands, brothers, sisters, like family business. And like, I really enjoy that. So I feel like that's really been a part of my journey.
So when did you get your therapist designation? Right. Around the same time you got your EOS designation.
That parenting class that I've taken many times is about active listening. And they teach clinical skills that a therapist would use. We all talk, like, you hear active listening all the time referenced. But the parent effectiveness training class, you can go find it online. Micah is the teacher here in Los Angeles. It's the least expensive class that you will ever spend. It's 8 weeks long, 3 hours each, and they break it down. And they give you like, okay, here's the behavior window. There's 4 parts to the window. If the problem falls in here, here's your helping skills. If the problem falls in here, here's your helping skills. And I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
I have not been classically trained. Yeah. But I really feel like, man, they're starting to fight and they're starting to get, and I can usually take the steam out of the room. Sometimes we have to take a break. Sometimes, we're like, okay, but I can usually bring it back to a point where I'm like, okay, do you guys see what you did today? You guys did it. You're not you agree on the vision. Mm-hmm. You're just upset with each other for the process of getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so I feel very comfortable in that space.
I would imagine it feels a lot like being a therapist sitting in those rooms. And I think that that's oftentimes needed because there's so much at stake. You talked about it. You mentioned it earlier, how you put your identity before in your job and all this stuff. And people do that all the time. People that put their identity in that, and entrepreneurs tend to put their identity in their business, right? Like it's an extension of who they are. So if there's something going wrong in the business, that means there's something wrong in them. So it's become so personal. And it becomes just this thing that eats them up inside because, boy, and if you say something negative about the business, no, you're saying something negative about me. And it's like we need to be able to work through these issues. And part of that is, for your role is to work through the issue. It's not like the issue is just an issue. It's not a problem with you individually. It's an issue inside of a business. It's not like this is but you have to work through the relationship dynamics at the same time.
You nailed this, Adam. And what I really think is insightful here, a month ago, we were at the LA chapter meeting for GoBundance. It was at one of the brothers' houses. He had used a family therapist. Oh gosh, I'm going to forget her name. She's a Gottman therapist, and she was wonderful. And the reason I want to remember it is because she deserves the credit. But we were talking about conflict. It will come to me in a second, hopefully. And she says, 70% of the conflicts never get resolved in relationship. And the room was aghast. Like, oh my gosh, there's no hope. Like, we're screwed, right? And I raised my hand. I was like, wait, 70% of the conflicts never get resolved in a healthy relationship? And she's like, yeah, that's a healthy relationship. And I said, oh my gosh, do you know how good a news that is? Right? So when you look at your wife, your son, your business partner and go, oh my gosh, we don't agree. No kidding. Right? And in a marriage, like when I dated my wife, we didn't agree then either. But we had a smoking relationship because we were connected. So I really focus on connection first, right? Now, in a business, in a family, hey, are we going to let our 8-year-old have Nerf guns or not? Right? You need to agree. And I love that you go into the bedroom and you work out these things so that you can come out and be united front. But the one thing that's really important is to acknowledge is like, hey, we don't see it the same way. That's okay. Nerf guns in our family, my wife was like, I'd never seen her more upset. He's 8. You don't want to have a Nerf gun? I thought she was going to take off my head, and I think she may have. I said, okay. Easton, it's my son. He was 8. I'm like, look, your mom is passionate about this. I don't feel like this is a big a deal for me, but it's really important to her. And the box says 10. So until you get to be 10, there's no Nerf guns. Okay? And we agreed. We probably did a little bit more publicly than you could have, right? You could have done that in the bedroom, right? But it's really important for me to focus on connection, to realize that we don't always agree. And then the EOS system, what helped us when we were getting our business more healthy, like there's certain things that are built into EOS that help you become healthy. Your check-ins, the way you IDS, open and honest. When you do the accountability chart, you know how there's no titles, no egos. What's the function? No, I'm the director of marketing. No, it's just marketing. We're constantly doing little tiny things that build healthy throughout the entire organization. And those things helped our business and helped our marriage. right? And so there's little things all the way through there because EOS is like, hey, we're going to get you vision, traction, and healthy. Healthy is the one that changed my life. Healthy is the one that determines how quickly you achieve your vision and traction. If you're not healthy, you're never going to get it. I don't care. So connection, that's my kind of like tying that all together.
For sure. No, I'm still heartbroken that your son had to wait till 10 to get Nerf guns, but that's a different story.
Amen. Amen. I get it. I get it.
My 2-year-old daughter runs around with Nerf guns. Yeah, good.
He's got like 27.
Good. He could come over. We have, so I homeschool the kids. And one of the homeschool groups that we're a part of, they do monthly Nerf gun wars where they meet up in this big field and you bring your Nerf gun. And, I mean, my boys have one that's like a Gatling gun that just, it winds up and
the battery operated one.
And it just goes to town.
Love that one.
It's pretty awesome. But yeah, like, and if you ask my sons, hey, Adam, where do you aim? Center mass, darn right. Right. So if you know, like,
hey, there's a mask.
Center mass. No, center mass.
Oh, so, mass.
Yeah. Center of mass is where all your vital organs are. So that's where you shoot. For sure. Like, got to hit center of mass, right? You're talking to a former military, former federal law enforcement guy. Like, this is what we do. If I'm going to teach you how to shoot with a Nerf gun, you're going to learn how to shoot, you know? So center of mass for sure.
Every family's different. Yeah, I love it.
In my side story, I don't know if I've ever told this one. I've told it 100 times, but just never on the podcast. But so my wife and I, we don't really curse, like we don't say anything like that, right? So we go and pick up my oldest, who's an only child at the time, from daycare. And it's daycare on base out in Japan. And they pull my wife and I aside and say, hey, we got to talk to you. Your son said the S word. And, you know, we just wanted to chat with you about that. I said, I'm sorry, can you tell me the scenario behind this? Like, that does not make sense to me, you know? And so he was standing over there and this girl had yelled, and he went over and asked what was wrong. And she said there was a spider. And he said, don't worry, I will shoot it for you. And I was like, so shoot was the S word? And yes, like that's, yeah. And you would just, and I look at the lady and exactly. And I've got a badge and a gun on my hip and I'm like, pull my jacket over. And I was like, these are in the house. Like, this is what we did. Like, first off, well, thank you for delivering the mail to me. I was like, first off, it's okay. It's, you know, I'm teaching him how to be wise with what he's doing. And second, he was protecting this woman from a spider, this young girl from a spider. I said, so good on him. He did a great job. He was protecting this young girl from a spider, and he knew how to shoot the spider anyway. So, like, great on you, buddy. So I was like,
was he?
He was 3, I think, when he did that.
It.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
I love it.
Yeah, it was solid. So I was very proud of him for being the man that I was raising him to be. It was well done. And now both of my boys do the same thing, right, buddies? You want to come say hi? You look like you want to come say hi. No, you're running away. I forgot to warn you before we recorded that oftentimes my boys will make it onto the screen in one way, shape, or form. And there they are. He said, what's up, guys? So we got Adam over here, and then we got Rourke coming over on the top. Diana's probably taking a nap.
Nice.
He said, hi, Adam. Hi, Rourke.
Nice.
Yep.
Hi.
This is what it looks like in the LeBar household. Yeah.
And Adam is the golfer.
Adam is the golfer. Rourke is interested in golf, but definitely, you know, he loves riding his dirt bike and loves doing all the 4-wheeler stuff. So, but both of them do that. So that's kind of hard to say. But Adam's the one who got the 4 under on Sunday on the parent child, right, bud?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice, Adam.
Yeah.
I love it.
You guys say hi to Mr. Ben.
Hi.
Hi.
But they can't hear me, huh?
No, they can't hear you. No. But, all right, get off my head, kids. Just get back to school. Get back to school. Yeah. All right. Never. All right, hop down, Rourke. Time for you to get back to school.
All right, he had to push the button to make me sound funny. There we go. Yeah.
I don't know which ones they're pushing. They want me to sound ridiculous for a little bit. Here we go.
Time will tell what happens.
I mean, who wouldn't want to push that button? That is fantastic.
Yeah, they do this. I've had entire meetings with that on, not realizing it was on. So I have to catch myself and make sure that I look down at it, that it's not in some weird mode.
All right, boys, get back.
Get back to school, you punks. But that's a small taste of what it's like in the Labar household right there.
Yeah. Good piece for mixing it all together.
Oh, I love it. So talk to me about you're raising your son. You guys are both apparently entrepreneurs wanting to do business stuff. How are you, or do you include your kid into the conversations about business? How does he understand kind of what you guys are doing on a day-to-day basis?
I think at the beginning, the one thing that sticks out to me is like, oh, mommy's the boss. Daddy's the boss. And it was like, we have an office in the Philippines, so we would be traveling to the Philippines, and he would see, there's 15 people in the office working, and mommy would come in, and she was the driver for the operations. I was the visionary, and then eventually I was out of the business. But he was always like, just tell him what to do, boss him around. And our son is a very much a leader type personality. Like the school came to us, and we had when they called us and said your son had said the F word, they didn't mean anything but the
F word. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Screaming it at the playground. Yes. I think that was 3. So one of the things that we started to make very clear in the beginning is like, hey, they're team members, and we get to serve our clients and our team. So I think that was one of the lessons that we worked through, I think, over the years. And the way that we talk about, the people that work for us, that was part of it. He's 10 now, and I've invited him in to do different things like putting stickers in books or packing this or something like that. But it hasn't really stuck too much. And I've worked harder to bring structure into the family than I have entrepreneurship. So I think for me, I really want to see him, hear him, and have that relationship be really strong. And then I think if it ever comes to entrepreneurship, he's a very strong leader. It could, but I don't know. Right now, it probably hasn't been that big of a deal for us.
Good. I mean, I don't think what you're doing is good, bad, or indifferent. I think that what makes sense for your family is what needs to make sense for you and your family, and what your kid is interested in, that's what you chase down. Like if we force it down our kid's throat to do one thing or another, I think that it's going to cause them to run away from it more than likely, or despise it, or hate it, and they're going to say no, or learn the wrong things from it anyways, right? So for me, I mean, it's similar. They're here for these types of conversations all the time. They hear me coaching people on business stuff. They hear me talking about, I get quite a few calls from GoBundance guys about like, hey, I've got this business idea, or hey, I'm thinking about this EOS thing, or I'm thinking about whatever. And so they get to be exposed to all of it. What they want to take out of it, they take out of it. If they ask me questions, I answer them. If they want to be involved and they show interest, then I'm jumping on it. One thing they've showed interest in that I have failed miserably at doing is this, and I've been talking about it on this podcast for the past year, is getting a vending machine business, so that they can learn how to do profit and loss. They can learn about all this stuff with just a vending machine. It's a couple grand of investment. Go and build a relationship with somebody where you can put the vending machine in their thing, and then you get to learn about business through a vending machine, through Doritos and chocolate bars. Like, what a deal! What a fun way for a kid to learn business. And they both are interested in doing that. I just haven't dedicated the time to do it with them. So perhaps I should make that my next venture that I chase down. But
maybe that's on your 1-year goal list.
There we go. Yeah, maybe it is. Try to get that set up before we leave, and then hire somebody to be able to do it while we're on our vacation. Yeah. Why are you showing me Captain America here? What do you got, buddy?
Paper.
All right, I'll get ask your brother to get your paper. All right. Love you, buddy. We have a Captain America thing here. I don't remember what this was for, but we're big superhero fans in this family. So I don't remember what it was for, but a nice little setup. I'm going to sit there. Yeah.
If you could get the vending machine set up and teaching like, revenue, cost of service or cost of goods, gross profit, operating expenses, and net income, I got to be honest, 50%, probably higher, of my teams across the leadership team do not understand that. when there is a finance person in the seat, they usually do. But a lot of times the finance person has not communicated or taught that across the leadership team. And if you can start with those lessons, man, that would just be amazing. Like that makes my heart sing. I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I can write an implementation book and give it out to other dads to, hey, this is how you can implement this in your kid's life and help them earn a little bit of money. And I told him, I said, look, if we get, 8 of these things, turn this into a business that you can go online and find these things actually for sale, the routes for sale for these things. And it's like, you guys can make this into a true business where, you're not just using it to give you some extra money, but you're potentially going to sell this thing for, $60,000, $80,000. Like that could be a big deal for you guys, but understanding what that all means, understanding profit and loss, understanding what a budget is, understanding what, again, how, if our machine near the gym does really well with protein bars, but not so great with chocolate bars, but our machine near the strip mall does really well in chocolate bars and not so great in protein bars. I wonder why that is. Tell me about the clientele in those different areas. Tell me why you think that happens. And like the discussions that we can have around that would just be so much fun. But maybe I need to do that. Yeah. Like ASAP.
How do you know if they've said they're into it? How do you know if they're ready for that?
I don't think you do until you do it, right? It's one of
those.
You
just try it. You're like,
yeah, you just try it and go for it. I didn't know that Adam was going to be ready for competition golf until we did it either, right? And you don't know anybody's ready for anything until you do it. So it's just like having kids. Like nobody's ready to have kids. Nobody is actually. Everybody may want kids, but nobody's ready for kids. Once kids come, you realize that I'm severely unarmed in this battle right now. I have no idea what I'm doing, but that's okay. That's just what you do. So. In a worst case scenario, if they don't like it, then I sell the machine and be done with it anyway. So it's not like it's a huge investment. So, and
like having kids, it's going to be a rough ride. So if you are like, maybe I want kids, maybe I don't, it's probably not the right attitude.
Yeah.
Right. If you're like, oh, I love to clean up all that stuff. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be dirty and I want it.
Yeah.
But you're probably right. Like, how do you, I don't know. Let's try.
And I think the only way to really know that you want it, it's one of those things that nobody loves wiping poop off of a butt, right? It's not usually everybody's most enjoyable moment.
Throw up all over my shirt? No.
Exactly. Not really. Like, thank you. I'm so glad that you threw up all over the floor and now I'm mopping it up. This is fun. I really enjoy this. Nobody's looking forward to that. But what you're looking forward to is the unbelievably immense joy of watching a child grow up, turning into a young man or young woman. And then eventually, you and I both have a 10-year-old boy, but eventually, in 8 years, graduating high school, moving on to maybe college, maybe on to something else, running a business, and the joy that we get to have watching all of that happen. That's why you want to have kids. You don't want to have kids because you want to change a butt. You want to have kids because of the joy they bring you as you continue to grow. Nobody wants to have a business because of the 2:00 in the morning phone call from some crazed, person who didn't like a product or was upset about this, or because there was a fire at your business. Like those aren't the reasons why people want businesses. They want it because of the freedom that it can build and the feelings that you get when you grow something and that you see the success and where it's at. And it's like, you could focus on all the things that are going to make your business or your family be miserable, or you can, again, change that perspective, understand what it actually is meant to be, and chase after the actual goal, the end goal, which is why you have a 3-year vision and a 10-year targets and all that type of stuff, because you're looking much more long-term, not just at the problem today.
Long-term decisions. Love it. Yes.
Well, Ben, this has been absolutely awesome. I learned so much about you that I did not know that I was going to, I had no idea about, which was phenomenal. Is there anything that you were thinking about as we were going through this conversation where you were like, man, I really hope that we talk about this, or, I really want to highlight this. Obviously we're going to touch on, your EOS stuff again here in a second, but anything that we're missing in the life of Ben on what you want to kind of hit out here?
I wrote a list of books that I thought were fantastic in my parenting. I mentioned PET. I think Playful Parenting by Lawrence J. Cohen influenced me. I think Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt.
Yep.
Haidt. Yep. Okay. Haidt. There you go. And How to Raise a Boy by Michael Reichert. Those are some of my favorite parenting books. I really enjoyed that. And then the amount of education and learning through peer groups and through reading and listening has just been instrumental in my life and has changed my life in ways that I never thought possible, and it continues to happen. I continue to spend time with people, and I do things like I'm an EOS implementer. 10 years ago, okay, maybe 12 years ago, I didn't know what that was, right? Everything in my life I didn't know about when I left college. So thank God that I have been able to learn and grow. Now that's something I love, right? I'm a reader. I'm a listener. I ask questions. I try things. Like that's probably one of the things that has always helped me. So I think that's just a big deal for me for who I am. And I think, Adam, you're probably the same way, right? You're not in a peer group. You're not starting a business, right? We've worked together. You're an owner of multiple businesses, right? I think you're probably the same way.
I didn't realize, I wish that I had known in high school how much I loved learning and
Right.
growing. It's like I was a pretty smart kid and then got a social life and then became a solid C student, went into the military. And when I was in the military, I just ate up every bit of knowledge I could about everything I was doing. Like I was a crew chief on the stealth fighter back in the day. And I was like, I would ask every question I could. I would be digging into, if somebody volunteered, I'd volunteer for everything. I was like, and I didn't realize it was just my joy and love for learning. It was just like, wow, that's cool. Let me try it out. And I'd go do it. And then it led me to some really cool positions. I was the dedicated crew chief for the Wing Kings jet. Put my name on the side of the same jet as the wing commander's name, the general in charge of the base, and got to go on TDYs to places. And I was like, this is really cool. And then I was like, boy, I feel like I want to do something else. So I ended up switching jobs, and I'd chase something else down. I was like, get a bunch of knowledge there. And I was like, oh, let me dig into this. Let me learn this. Let me do that. Let me do this. And I was like, okay, I feel like I've maxed this out. Let me go on to something else. And then I got out of the military, went to college, and it was just this nonstop. And then now that, looking back on it as well, like I was always chasing probably entrepreneurship type stuff, right? Because I always wanted to learn more. I always wanted to build something and grow something. And then once I built it and grew it, it was like, okay, time to move on to the next thing. And now I'm still like in that mode all the time. My brain is constantly trying. And I do the same thing with the family side. So the fact that you came to the end of this conversation and said, I want to talk about the parenting books, not the business books, speaks directly to like where I think that a majority of entrepreneurs who are dads should be looking at this. Is we work so hard to grow our business knowledge and the books that we read for our business stuff. And, oh, did you read this? And did you read, Buy Back Your Time? Did you read Buy Then Build? And did you do this thing? And did you do like the one thing? And all, and it's like, okay, when was the last time you read something to help you be a better dad? When was the last time you read something to help you be a better husband? Where are you growing in the things that actually matter? So it was, I love that you mentioned those books at the end and not another random business book. Not because I'd be upset about the business book, but because to me, the dad portion is so much more important than the biz portion in being a biz dad. And the anxious generation, I love that you mentioned that one too, because that one is in today's day and age, what a world we live in that is causing so many different problems. Man.
And just as a note, that was one of the reasons, I'm like, here I am spending I'm in Strategic Coach. I'm in, GoBundance. I'm in Provisors. I'm in all these different peer groups. And it comes to my marriage. I'm like, hey, let's go to a marriage retreat. Right. So we went to a weekend to remember. And
those are good.
Considering all the money I'm spending, it wasn't that expensive.
Not at all.
Couple of nights in Torrance in a Marriott, right, with just like a date night, and just, it wasn't crazy, but it was just time with my wife.
Yeah.
And so that investment, I totally agree. It's like, hey, let's pour that into everything in our life that's important, and family and kids. Yes.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Ben, I know that people are going to hear this and want to talk to you about some EOS stuff. What's the best way for folks to reach out to you to learn more about your EOS implementation and how to get to know you a bit more?
I think it's just reaching out through email. I have a microsite. I have a website. I think it will be on a link here. My email is ben.kelley, Kelley, at EOSworldwide.com. But you can search EOS Worldwide, Ben Kelley, and you'll go right to my website.
Very good. Well, we'll have that in the show notes anyways, the book recommendations and everything. We'll try to put in the show notes as well. Ben, it was awesome getting to chat with you a little bit more and learning a little bit more about you on a personal level. I really appreciated it. I thank you so very much for jumping on. Those that are listening, please reach out to Ben. I have worked with him as an EOS implementer, so I will vouch for that for sure. Reach out to him, have him help your business grow. Please like, subscribe, comment below. Let us know what your favorite part of the conversation was. Let us know what you thought about our parenting advice and thoughts and marriage advice and thoughts. I would love to, for some reason, fight it out on the internet. If you disagree with anything I said too, I'll gladly duke it out on the internet against you. So, but thank you again very much, Ben. Thank you everybody for listening, and we will see everyone on the next show.
Thanks, Adam. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to the BizDad Podcast. We hope you found some value in your time here with us, and we look forward to bringing you the next episode. If you've enjoyed today's show, please subscribe and share so you and your friends won't miss our upcoming episodes. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Rumble, where we continue these discussions and share more valuable content. Be the dad you know you need to be and run your business in a way you're proud to share with your kids. Keep crushing it.